Was that someone shooting them, or just this is the beginning? That was not what I expected. So Luffy gets a lucky escape. I wonder, it doesn't look like he would have been strong enough to defeat Smoker. I wonder if it's like, you know, with Pokemon, there's a type advantage. Like, what can defeat Smoke? Like, what if there's a fire fruit? And then the smoke and the fire, like, the fire lights and then the smoke explodes and that. So what if that's the type advantage? I don't know. But yeah, it wasn't what I expected at all. These 2 episodes, they focused on the theme of, you know, sometimes you're not necessarily ready to do something, but when you do it anyway, the universe kind of opens the doors that needs to be opened. And it's time for my review. I hope you guys are ready for another longish video. I'm not sure, I didn't actually count how many pages today's notes are. So I know I didn't share my reaction highlights of episode 50 and 51. It's because I watched them by myself. But I did tweet about them. I did make a little thread. So I'm just going to go through that with you guys. You can find my Twitter link in the description if you actually want to follow me on there and see these tweets live as they happen. Okay, so my immature ass laughed every time they called him daddy. I'm just not even gonna comment on that further because oh, it's you, daddy. Anyway, Luffy's reaction to daddy is my reaction to like every One Piece character. It's just freaking out about how cool they are. First of all, I didn't even realize Usopp used his goggles to help him aim. I didn't even know that, but it was revealed in this episode that he does use them to aim. And then I absolutely love little Carol. Her attitude is the best. I love that she's like really crude towards other people, but then really sweet towards her dad. But she's not fake in front of her dad. Like, she's still crude towards other people, some other people like Usopp, but in front of him. So it's not like she's hiding her personality, and her voice just gets so rough and she's like, ah. Absolutely loved her. A lot of people say this episode and 51 are not filler. Oda just didn't have time to include them in the manga. I can 100% believe that because it wasn't this episode, episode 50, the episode these tweets are about. It's an important episode that lays a strong foundation for Usopp's character and the development I'm sure he'll get in the future. Then this was really important in my opinion. I loved learning more about Usopp's dad and his character. I respect him for following his dreams but not denying his faults. The episode made me respect Usopp even more too. Most kids understandably would resent a parent that abandoned them, but Usopp chose to focus his energy differently. So these are just pictures of daddy asking him, why don't you love your son? And then he said the pirate flag or the sea called him, and he said, but for a pirate, whether he kills or not is up to his mood. So this is really important, I think, especially in what happened in episode 53 when Zoro didn't kill or hurt Tashigi, and she was like, is it because I'm a woman? But it's not that. Like, for a pirate, they don't have to kill. Like, pirates aren't necessarily bad. It's not like he said, like a marine, that when they find a pirate, they have to kill them. For a pirate, it's all about his mood. So that's like a cool way of saying, if we don't, like, if you're not a bad person and you don't need to kill, like, you're not gonna kill. Like, what's the point of that? So yeah, I think that's really important in terms of the Zoro versus Tashigi moment. And also, if you think about it, Mihawk versus Zoro. So it's not so much about, it's not just about honor, it's just like sometimes you respect someone as a swordsman and then, I don't know, you kill them because that's the honorable thing to do. But on the other hand, they are pirates after all. They are free to choose to do what they want at the end of the day, whether that is conventionally honorable or not. I love a character who can own up to his own shortcomings and who strives to be a better version of themselves. That is true for both Usopp and his father. And Usopp here says, I can't stand being weak or cowardly. I'm go Usopp, I'm rooting for you. This was a great episode. I can definitely agree that it should be considered canon, even though it wasn't in the manga. Okay, so those are my tweets on episode 50, and here are my tweets for episode 51. I shouldn't really be going through these because it makes my review that much longer, and you guys can go read it yourselves if you want. In fact, it would probably be better not to read them and then, kind of guide you to my Twitter to go read them. I'm joking. But I really like going through these again and kind of reliving the little moments, even though I just watched it like yesterday. So I kind of understand how you guys feel rewatching One Piece with me. Like, it's so exciting. I mean, I watched this yesterday and I already feel like it's so fun to go through it again. Okay, so my first impression of Carmen in episode 51 was like, meh. But I like that her hair is fiery like her personality. Then she smacked Sanji in the face with a pan and now I love her. I love Sanji, but his Casanova side deserves a smack in the face with a pan every now and then. So yeah, at first I was like, she's a little weird. But the burning woman of passion, the burning Carmen, and her hair really looks like it's a little flame. It's so cute. I love the design. And then this guy, I thought these were his eyes, and I was like, what the fuck? And then his eyes opened up here, and I was like, that's his nose. Okay then. I thought these visuals were really cool of her making food. And I said, who knew that One Piece inspired Food Wars, the anime Food Wars? I think you guys, if you haven't watched Food Wars yet, I think you should. It's definitely a fun watch. It is very ecchi, but I absolutely love that in anime. I love echiness. And Food Wars is like the perfect blend of great characters, an actually interesting story, super echiness, and delicious food. What's not to love? Okay, so I love this whole scene. It's underrated. Like, it's one of those scenes that you want to call it underrated because it's like, it's such a great scene, but it's actually so small, in the grand scheme of things. But it's so fun. Like, it was this scene where he was like looking for Luffy, and he was like talking about it, and then he smashed the table, and Luffy and Zoro Luffy thought Zoro had money and Zoro thought Luffy had money, and they had just eaten and they had no way to pay. And then Buggy was sitting there talking about looking for Luffy, and he banged the table, and then his money bag flew and fell on Luffy's table, and he was like, oh, thanks for the food. Woohoo, lucky. It was such a good scene. That whole scene in there was really fun to watch. And one thing that I love Luffy says, one thing that I love that Luffy says, and I've heard him say it like 2 or 3 times, is thank you. So cute, and he said it there. Okay, so I recorded my reaction of episode 52 and 53 before I had time to watch episode 51. So what had happened was I watched episode 50, then it was time to record because I work according to like a very strict schedule. And then it was time to record my reaction to episode 52 and 53. So I had to put off watching 51 while episode 52 and 53 was uploading for patrons. So I had already seen this fish in episode 52. Sanji was carrying it. And I knew that episode 51 was about Sanji because episode 50 ended with Sanji turning around because Carmen, the voice of Carmen, said, Sanji, I was looking for you, or something like that. So I knew episode 51 was going to be about Sanji the way that episode 50 was about Usopp. And when I saw this fish in episode 52, I knew that 51 was going to show us how he got this damn fish. And it was so good. It was so good. Okay, one thing I have to say about Sanji's Casanova side, at least he's not the I am God's gift to woman type. Although the fact that he falls in love with every pretty lady is not my favorite side of him, or any guy or any person, like a girl that falls in love at the drop of a hat would irritate me as well. But his derpiness is still really endearing. Like the moments that he like when that Tashigi calls out Zoro for lying to her, and he's like, what did you do to her? Like, it still is funny and endearing. It's definitely better than thinking like, all women love me and like, don't you want to be with, like, he's not the Johnny Bravo type exactly, and I like that about him. Okay, From all the MCs, Sanji is my favorite as a kid. I love his bad attitude. From what I've seen so far, Sanji, Luffy, and Usopp are the most childish. Usopp and Luffy are quite childlike. Sanji is like a rebellious teenager. Zoro is mostly very mature, but he sometimes gets pulled into their mischief, like when Usopp and Luffy wanted to play tag, and Zoro's like, "What are you, a kid?" And then Usopp says something like, "Oh, he's just scared he's gonna lose," and then he eventually does get pulled into their games. It's so cute. Nami is the most mature, I think, in my opinion. But Sanji is my favorite kid because he's got such a bad attitude. "I'm not a kid, you shithead." Ah, so funny. Okay, so All Blue has to exist. Why would it even be a thing in the story if it didn't? Like, why would it ever have been brought up if they weren't gonna find it one day? I'm sure they'll find it, but where could it be? What about an underground ocean? My first idea was something like that. I'll show you guys that in a second. So this was what he showed Sanji. There's no place for another ocean. There are only those 4. So he's saying it should be impossible for it to exist because there's east, west, north, and south, and the grand lines through it and the red line there. But there's this video that you guys should go check out. It's about this underground ocean thing. Like, what if, you know how there's a movie called, I've never watched it, but I've seen the trailer, Journey to the Center of the Earth or something like that. What if All Blue is like an underground ocean? Or like, you know, in one of those Ice Age movies, they like fall underground or something, and then there's a whole nother world down there. Like, that would be my first guess, is that All Blue is somewhere underneath all these seas. I don't know if that could even happen, but that's my first guess. Okay, so this was really great. It was really deep, kind of, that they had actually met before, and she said, "Your dream has never changed," and she really did find him 10 years later, and she said, "I'll concede today, but you had better be prepared for the next time we meet." On one hand, I feel like they're probably never going to meet again because this was technically filler. So if someone didn't watch the filler and they bring her again in like a canon episode in the future, then like maybe some people wouldn't understand or know like, who the fuck is this bitch. But I hope she does pop up again, because otherwise it would be sad, because she said, "You had better be prepared for the next time we meet." So for me, that says they should meet again in the future. So yeah, that would be nice if they did. Here, Nami predicted the weather right again. Nami was right about the weather, even though it didn't look like it was going to rain. This isn't the first time she predicts the weather correctly. It happened really early on in One Piece that I noticed it before. Being good at weather predictions isn't related to map drawing, is it? So it's like another special talent. Interesting. But someone did say, actually it is connected. This is El Drago, Excalibur797 on Twitter. Actually it is connected, since she's a navigator. She's experienced in geography. She's experienced in geography as well as meteorology. Thus, she has excellent ability in predicting the weather and can accurately draw maps. Those are both skills a ship navigator often has. So yeah, I kind of thought like maybe they were related, but I didn't think that you wouldn't need to know some things to know other things, and that person explained it really well, so thank you. Okay, so let's get to my notes on episode 52. Buggy's Revenge. The man who smiles at the execution platform. So this is page 11 of 19. So that means that I have 8 pages of notes for these 2 episodes. That's not too bad. Okay, so I'm pretty sure I already wrote this down somewhere, but I'm writing it down again just in case. From this point in the story, it's 22 years ago that Gold Roger was executed in Logetown. And then listen to this. Luffy is 17, as far as I remember, so he was around 5 when Gold Roger was killed. Edit, oops, he was born 5 years after Gold Roger was killed. My math skills are backwards. Someone on Twitter pointed out like, that's wrong, because that person was actually, because you can be live on this, like if you open this document, the link to this document, you can see me type as I type my notes, and that person was apparently had notes open and actually tweeted me and said, excuse me, your math is wrong there. So yeah, that was like oopsies. So anyway, so I think that's important to remember that Luffy was born 5 years after Gold Roger was dead, killed, executed, that word. And I think it's important to remember, because where is his crew? Did he ever have a wife? Did he ever bear children? What about all the people, like, weren't they, like, why was he caught, and why wasn't anyone caught with him? Like, you know how close Shanks and his crew is? Like, why wasn't his crew there with him being executed? Or, I don't know. So, yeah, it's interesting. I'm wondering if Shanks and Gold Roger could be related somehow, because Shanks is we're still so unsure about who he is at all, you know. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. Let's go on with the notes. Okay, so in episode 52, Luffy stands on top of the platform and says, "So, it was 22 years ago, huh? That's when Gold Roger was executed and the Great Pirate Age began." 22 years ago, or 22 years before Luffy stood on that same platform. Well, the first volume of One Piece came out 22 years ago on 22 July 1997. Almost exactly 22 years ago from our time now. So I kind of feel like Luffy in a small way now, because he was standing on the platform looking over the plaza exactly 22 years after Gold Roger had been killed there. And here I am standing in front of all of you, sitting 22 years after the Pirate Age, the One Piece Volume 1 actually came out. It came out on the 22nd of July 1997. So that's 22 years ago, almost exactly. So I think it's kind of cool. So I felt a little bit like Luffy. I'm joking. I'm starting to really like Alvida. She's hilarious now. Her character at the start of the anime was so rude and loud. She seemed angry all the time. Now she's so soft-spoken. Like, her voice is soft and smooth, like her skin, lol. But she's still absolutely vain. Plus, although I don't find this out until episode 53, I wrote these notes obviously after watching 52 and 53, and while I'm editing 52, I make these notes. Plus, her slippery powers are too funny. I have put her just below Buggy on my favorite villains list. So here, if you click this in the notes, it'll take you to my updated favorites list, and you'll see my most up-to-date favorites. Okay, so it's now Django, Buggy, Alvida. Django, shame, he's not going to stay on top for long, I think, because obviously the more you get to know other villains or characters, whatever, the more likely they are to rise in ranks, because you get to know them better. And Django, I don't know if we're ever going to see him again, but if we're going to see Buggy a lot, and it seems like we are, Buggy and Alvida, it's going to be obvious that they'll eventually overtake poor old Django, but I really miss Django. Okay, I remember we did see Luffy eat his fruit, and we saw Buggy eat his fruit, but I don't remember what they looked like. So I kind of want to go back and go see what the Bara fruit and what the Gomu Gomu fruit looks like. Like, I want to see if they look differently, or do they look the same? How do they look? And I also hope we get to see, or at least hear about, how Alvida found her fruit and Smoker found his. Like, I really want to, we got the backstories for the other two, now I really want to find out these two, like, why, how easy are they to get? Like, we've met a lot more devil fruit users than I had thought we would at this point. We're only like 50 episodes in. We've already met, wait, let me see, Luffy, Buggy, Smoker, and Alvida. So there's 4 already, and we're only 50 episodes in. So I was definitely not expecting to have met so many at this point. Buggy's voice acting is top notch, lol. Apparently his VA is Shigeru Chiba. He also voices Saburota Negishi from Princess Jellyfish, and a ton of other characters, but none that I know, except for Saburota. It was just this part, he screamed something, and it's just, his voice is goes so funny. Okay, Smoker. For some reason, I thought Luffy was different from the other riffraff. Like he was a man to watch out for, but he's just another typical punk. I think this dialogue is hinting at the fact that there is definitely something special about Luffy, but he's still very young. You don't just wake up one day and you're ready to be something great. Luffy's adventure or journey to become Pirate King has only just begun. And he isn't ready at this point to actually be the Pirate King. He still has a lot to learn and experience. This is only natural. I think Smoker was expecting a bit much from such a young pirate, but there is definitely something special about him, and I have no doubt that he will become the Pirate King, just like he keeps affirming. I said this already in my like every time Luffy says that, and it's kind of like a goosebumps moment because you can feel that conviction from him. I said this already in my reaction, but I cut it out to save some time since I want to put it in my notes anyway. I was curious about why Luffy and Buggy's ships could dock in Loketown Harbor at all, since they both have wanted posters. Is there no identification system or something like that when a ship docks in a town? I understand that Buggy and them were all cloaked for this reason, to hide from the Marines, but I'm pretty sure Luffy's ship always has its pirate flag up. I just saw in the episode that it's even blowing in the wind when Moji gets there. So, did no one think to stop them before they even got off their ship? I would have thought that Marines would be stationed at the docks to inspect incoming ships. My guess is that the Marines are overconfident because their captain is Smoker. But in episode 50, there were pirates running around in the streets. They were after Daddy because he had caught their companions. So clearly their overconfidence is not justified, or are they just bad at their job? And then there's this part where Buggy is about to execute Luffy, and Alvida said, "So this is the end of the man I searched so long for." I thought maybe Alvida is a masochist and fell in love with Luffy after he punched her before. She did say, after all, "You'll be mine," or something like that. But she was pretty chill about Buggy wanting to execute him, and since she joined up with Buggy knowing he wanted revenge, for a pirate, obviously revenge is most likely killing. She probably, a pirate like Buggy, by the way, she probably wanted the same thing all along. But I don't really understand then what was the point of her telling Luffy that she likes strong men and about him and he'll be hers. That conversation feels a little out of place now, but it is Alvida. She's just a little bit of an oddball after all. Since the episode is called The Man Who Smiles at the Execution Platform, this has to be quite important to the story. Specifically, an important indication about Luffy's character. You can see on the shock on his face, like it's a big thing. It has to mean something. Its importance is emphasized by Smoker. Why could this be such an important characteristic? Something inherent to both Luffy and Gold Roger, since Smoker points out that Roger is the only other pirate he has ever seen to smile just before he was executed. What kind of person do you have to be to smile in the face of death? And not some kind of deranged, triumphant, or evil smile. You know, like evil people can sometimes have this deranged look in their eyes and this evil smile. But Luffy's smile was a truly sincere smile of absolute acceptance and possibly even gratitude for the life that he's been able to live up to that moment. And Smoker says that Roger had the same smile. Is this the kind of attitude you must have if you dream of becoming the Pirate King? Is it like kind of like an inherent characteristic that someone that can actually become the Pirate King, that can carry that title, automatically has to or will have this kind of characteristic? Also, is it an attitude, belief, or characteristic you are born with, or something anyone can learn to have? That is an interesting thought. Okay, so when this scene happened, one of the first things I thought was, what the heck is with that blue fire? According to Google, though, a high oxygen fire burns blue. So it was probably just, I don't know what causes a high oxygen fire, maybe fire by lightning. Furthermore, it's lucky that Buggy forced all the civilians, to stay in the plaza to witness his execution of Luffy, because they ended up seeing this miracle. I'm sure it will be talked about a lot, and it will end up adding to Luffy's fame and his desire to become the Pirate King. I don't know why I wrote that, his desire to become the Pirate King. It will add a claim to Luffy's name and desire to become the Pirate King. I don't think it'll add anything to his desire to become the Pirate King, but definitely will add to, you know, the legend that is Luffy. You know, he's going to become a legend now, or at least easier because of this story that people are obviously gonna tell the story of how he survived this whole thing, and you know how people are, they kind of exaggerate things. So yeah, what I'm trying to say is this will just make Luffy more famous. I love how all of that crazy shit happens and then Luffy just picks up his hat, laughs and says, hey, I'm alive, I'm okay. I also found it hilarious how Sanji asks, oi, do you believe in God? After witnessing this miracle slash stroke of luck. So this visual was really important to me because of the episode name. Like, a chapter or a book is never called something for no reason. Like, the author definitely chooses the names of books. It's his book, his or her book. And I'm pretty sure I've been told that Oda was really closely involved with the making of One Piece at the start. So even if, I don't know if this was the name of the chapters as well, but I'm pretty sure he had to have something to do with, you know, the episode names, at least at this point still. And the fact that the man who smiled at the execution platform, and just look at these two visuals, and what's his name, Smoker keeps bringing them up, these two, and comparing them. So it was just really, it struck me as really profound in some way. Smoker compared these two a lot, and at first I was wondering whether the episode name was referring to Luffy or to Gold Roger, but I think it's probably both. The Lost Pirate King, who smiled just before he was executed. At his own execution, the Pirate King Gold Roger smiled the very same way, that was Smoker's words, paralleled with Luffy, the boy who is aiming to become the next Pirate King. And then the episode ends with this person's face, and I asked, could this be the person that started the storm? He's shown briefly at the end of the episode, very spooky and ominous. At the end of episode 53, I think he was referred to as Dragon, and since writing this, I have edited episode 53, and it was Dragon. I knew it was something with a D, but I was like, it was Dragon, right? And then I got to that part of the editing, and yes, it was. So yeah, this character is really mysterious, and the ending of episode 52 was really spooky. So they're really emphasizing this character's like mystery at this point, and it's kind of throwing me off. Like, what the heck? Episode 53, after the recap, begins with the same man that episode 52 ended with. This guy. He's walking down the street in the rain, and Gold Roger's words are repeated. It's playing over the walking. Inherited will, the destiny of the age and its people. These are things that will not be stopped. And now I just thought of something, and I don't know if it... No. Wait, I'll talk about it in a second, because you'll see. So, inherited will, the destiny of the age and its people. These are things that will not be stopped. As long as people pursue the meaning of freedom, nothing can ever take those away. Was this man there the day Gold Roger got executed? Why does it seem like he's thinking of those words now? So it's like the words aren't just playing randomly. It's like it's in his mind, like he's thinking of those words. He actually heard those words, in the same way that Smoker was there the day that Gold Roger got executed, and now these words are playing again while this man is walking down the street, and he says, a pirate, huh? Good. And listen, okay, something, while I was reading this part now, something just popped up in my head, and it's linked with something someone told me, and something I theorized about but wasn't sure about, but now I'm more sure about it, and I don't know if it's I'll get there. So I wrote, clearly he means Luffy, or does he? But it seems like he does, because later at the end of episode 53, the Marines ask him something like, why did you help that man? And that was right after he helped Luffy escape from Smoker. So then it must be Luffy. And he's saying, a pirate, huh? Good. So why are you saying good? Is he surprised Luffy's a pirate? Why is it good, and how does he know Luffy in the first place? This is the most obviously mysterious man in the series thus far. Shanks is also mysterious in the sense that we don't know much about him at this point. And people have said that even to this day, still not much has been revealed about Shanks. So I assumed Shanks was a mysterious man. But this guy is mysterious in the most literal sense of the word. Because he's like cloaked and there's a lot of emphasis put on his mystery. His face is shrouded in darkness and the lightning strikes and lights up his face for a moment. Ooh, it's like so spooky. Like, why? Why so much mystery? And then I took like a 2-hour break. I had something to eat. I watched an episode of Fruits Basket. I took a little break from editing and doing my notes. And then I said here, I just took like a 2-hour break from editing and making my notes, and I thought of something. What if the mystery man is Luffy's dad? I've been guessing things like this too much though. Like when we met Smoker, I thought, this guy's badass and he looks a little like Zoro. Maybe it's his dad. And I remember in the reaction telling myself that I shouldn't be making stupid guesses. Because what's the point of guessing 30 things and one thing ends up being right? It doesn't feel like credible to me. Like I wouldn't even feel good about making a theory and it ends up being right if I'm guessing at like 100 things and like 5 things in, like it doesn't feel the same as making a good theory and then it ends up being true. I'd rather make 1 or 2 well-informed guesses than just guessing a bunch of things. So at this point, I'm not sure if I'm just hoping to find out more about Zoro, Luffy, and Sanji's past. Where did they grow up? Who are their parents? Do they have siblings, etc.? Because Zoro, we saw one part of his past. Sanji, one part of his past. And a little bit more than Zoro though. And Luffy, one part of his past. Like with Nami, we know how she grew up. Like we know who her mother was. We know her sister. We know the town she grew up in and how she, we know a lot about Nami's past. We know relatively a lot about Usopp's past. He lived in a boring little village. His mom died. His dad as a pirate. He grew up with those kids. Like we know as much as I think we can know about Nami and Usopp's childhood. But we know very little about especially Luffy and Zoro and Sanji. Sanji, they reveal, like, you can kind of assume he grew up on a ship, but, like, where was he born? Why was he on the ship in the first place? That kind of questions, like, there's a lot we don't know, and, who are their parents? Do they have siblings? Or, wait, now I just totally lost the sentence. Let me just start again. So at this point, I'm not sure if I'm just hoping to find out more about Zoro, Luffy, and Sanji's past, or do I actually think this is a valid guess? At this point, I think I'm just grasping at straws and there has been no conclusive hints that Smoker or the mystery man is related to anyone at all. But I'll keep my eyes open. But while I was reading this, inherited will, the destiny of the age and its people, these are things that will not be stopped. So I'm thinking that I may be onto something when I'm saying not about Smoker, but about this mystery guy being Luffy's dad, because, and I don't want to say names now because I don't think that this is it can't really be considered spoiler. Someone said, someone that's watching Attack on Titan with me, they mentioned these words: inherited will, the destiny of the age and its people. These are things that will not be stopped as long as people pursue the meaning of freedom. This person linked those words to something in Attack on Titan, and it has like inherited will, and then he said something about Eren's dad and Eren, and now I'm thinking, am I right about this stupid guess? Is it not such a stupid guess after all? Inherited will. It just feels like too many things are... no, maybe I'm just overthinking things. I don't know. Why is there just a big gap here? Oh, there's a picture. Okay, so I'm just gonna, like I said at the end of the paragraph, I'll just keep my eyes open for now for any hints about anything. But it just feels like the person who told me about inherited will, why did they mention Eren and Eren's dad? And now I'm guessing about Luffy's dad, and it was, and the words inherited will came up for him and he was thinking about it, and he's like, a pirate, huh? Good. As if it's, he saw now, oh, my son has become a pirate. Good. It just, everything kind of just is too convenient right now. Like, especially the inherited will part, and the person mentioning the inherited will between Eren's dad and Eren, or like, I'm not gonna say more because then I'm just gonna spoil Attack on Titan stuff. But is my brain bringing up these words now and here, and inherited will was said, ooh, girl, I don't know, but I am thinking, I don't want to say the person's name though, because it's not a spoiler because it's my brain connecting these things, but that's why I always tell people, like, it's really hard to comment on my videos because, like, if 10 different people hint at something really, really well, like it's not even a spoiler, but if 10 people say these different things, my brain starts making these connections, and then, you know, inevitably I'm gonna find out, not just because of what the anime shows me, but because of what other people are pointing out to me and making me think of, you know. So yeah, I don't think it's the spoilery thing there, but if my guess is correct, then I guessed it now because I was doubting myself while I was writing these paragraphs. I was really doubting myself. I was like, no, I'm just like grasping at straws at this point. But then while I was reading through my notes and I read this inherited will part again, my mind thought about what that person said about inherited will and Attack on Titan and Eren and his dad, and I'm like, oh, this is something a dad would say. So that's my guess. It's officially now a guess. It's not like the Smoker and Zoro guess, because I think that was literally just me grasping at straws. Okay. It's a specially developed prison by the Marines that suppresses devil fruit powers. Devil's fruit powers? This is super dangerous. So there is definitely developed technology, not sure what else to call it, that can suppress. No, I think I spelled it right there. That picture spells it wrong. So there's definitely something that can suppress devil fruit powers. I'm sure this will be used a lot in the future to nerf Luffy. How on earth was this developed? I'm not sure if it will be used a lot, but if they're gonna have to, you know, nerf Luffy, that's gonna be how they do it. For, like, you know how in a lot of fights, Zoro had those wounds because if he had been at full power back then, it wouldn't have been so much of a fight. So that's why they nerfed Zoro beforehand, so that he couldn't, you know, end the fight in like 2 seconds at that point. But I'm just guessing that if in the future, like, they're going to use some kind of devil's fruits technology to suppress his devil fruit powers, because without his devil fruit powers, Luffy is like, he's not a sword fighter, he can't do like martial arts, so how would he fight without that, you know? How on earth was this developed? I think that's a pointless question though, like I'm answering myself here, since this is a fantasy world, so it's not necessary to ask things like that, or for example, how does a devil fruit work, etc. Some things just need not be questioned. This is one of those things. I absolutely loved the exchanges between Zoro and Tashigi in this episode when they fought and Zoro defeated her and she asked him, "Why didn't you kill me?" I kind of feel frustrated that her go-to reason is it because I'm a woman? But I know that this was a different time. Well, it's not in the real world, so I don't really know if it's a different time. But from Zoro's past, we learned that women are definitely looked down upon in that world, much like in our history. Like, it's not like that now in the Western world, women are equal, men are equal, everyone has equal opportunity in the Western world. But in our past, it wasn't always like that. And it seems like in this story, it's in that time. Like, women are looked down upon. As the weaker sex, but from the blah, 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 because Quina was told she couldn't inherit her dad's dojo or something like that. I hope I'm remembering correctly. I really, really loved Zoro's reaction. It's so, how do I put this, sincere. He got so frustrated after he defeated her and she said, "Is it because I'm a woman and you don't know what it's like to be born as a boy, I wanted to be da 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 da," and he's like, "You're saying the same things. That face is so, I hate that you exist." Like, it was such a great moment. He got so frustrated and kind of shouted back at her. And I just really love him. He's usually so calm and collected. And here he just kind of lost it. And I really enjoyed that. And that reminds me, I'm putting him back as my #1 character. It used to be Zoro Luffy, and then it was Luffy Zoro, and then it was Zoro Luffy, and Luffy Zoro, and now it's Zoro Luffy. Yeah, this is just... He's got a really big forehead. Has anyone ever noticed that? He's actually got a really big forehead. It's like kind of like a Frankenstein forehead. But it's one of the things I love about him. His big forehead and mint hair. And his earrings. Like, that is attractive. I'm pretty sure there are a lot of people that probably ship Zoro and Tashigi for these kinds of exchanges and how they met and stuff, blah, blah, blah. And because she looks like Quina, but I just don't feel it. The reason I think there would be lots of people who ship them is because this kind of quarreling can sometimes hint at like, I don't know, attraction in a weird way. Often people that quarrel a lot, not serious fighting, but I mean these kinds of little quarreling spats, they actually like each other. And I don't know if that's because of like sexual tension or whatever, or them just trying to hide their true feelings. I don't know if that's the case with these two or if that's what Oda had in mind when he wrote this, but for me, I don't see them fitting together. I would rather have, like, as much as she and Quina looks like each other and has these kind of similar experiences, I already talked in the last video, I talked about my little theory behind that. As much as they are similar, I feel like they're not that much alike. Like, they definitely each are their own person, and I would rather have seen Zoro and Quina grow up together and, you know, end up together eventually if that's where it led. But I don't feel the same about Tashigi. I'm not gonna ship them just because she looks like Quina and has an inferiority complex about her sex like Quina. And of course, we can understand the inferiority complex because they grew up in a time that they were looked down upon. There wasn't equal opportunity for men and women. But I'm just saying, I'm not shipping them just because of that, you know? Anyway, when Usopp jumped into the water to be able to help Sanji, I felt so proud of him. He is a brave boy and I love him. Ooh. Compared to how Luffy was fighting against Buggy, Don Krieg, and especially Arlong, it hardly feels like he's trying very hard against Smoker at all. Or if he could even try hard. Like, it's more like Smoker was just way too OP compared to Luffy. He detained Buggy, Alvida, and all the pirates that was with them without breaking a sweat after all. But I don't know. Watching him try and fight Smoker, Luffy I mean, and being totally overpowered was just so underwhelming. But I think that's exactly what it was supposed to feel like. Luffy was strong compared to all the other people he had been up against up to now. But like Smoker said, if Luffy can't defeat him, he wouldn't make it in the Grand Line. Maybe this is to show us Luffy isn't, you know, ready for the Grand Line yet. Like, he's not going in there and things are going to be easy for him. Like, we're supposed to know, like, he's going in there and it's going to be tough. Maybe he has some more growing to do. Or it's just to show us that things won't be easy for Luffy, as easy for him as we think. Because up to now, it's like, you know he's going to win. We always know he's going to win. But I think it's kind of to show us, like, he didn't win here. We don't think it's going to be so easy for him in the Grand Line. Like, this is the real deal. He is strong, but there are still so many stronger people they will face. Similar to when Zoro faced Mihawk. Okay, and then there's these two screenshots. This is from my translation, and this is what Assimilator sent me. The different translation was pointed out to me by Assimilator, a patron who is also on my Discord. These two translations seem like they mean very different things to me, so I wonder which one's more accurate. The first one, in mine, he said, looks like my run of bad luck is over. And then in the other one, he said, you're running out of your devil's luck. So yeah, these things mean very different things to me, and I feel like this one is more accurate. Because this one is saying he's having bad luck, and that one's saying Luffy's good luck is running out. So, but I'm pretty sure I heard the word Akuma or something. So and Akuma means devil. So I'm thinking the more accurate is you're running out of your devil's luck. But then he didn't, because guess who shows up? Anyway, the mystery man stops Smoker from defeating, I said Luffy, but I meant Oh, from defeating Luffy. Oh, yes. The mystery man stopped Smoker. At first, it doesn't look like Smoker recognizes him, but then after the lightning reveals his face, like the lightning flashed and his face got lit up, Smoker says, "The government wants your head." To which the mystery man replies, "The world is waiting for our answer?" What? That doesn't seem like it makes sense. I'm not sure if the translation is bad again, or he's just speaking in some kind of code, or it's some inside thing that only makes sense if you know who he is. But since he says our answer, maybe he and Smoker knows each other somehow. He seems to have this green wind power. I wonder if does he control the wind and the storm, like the weather? But it seems like he only controlled the wind, but maybe he used the wind in some way to form that storm. I don't know. Interesting. I guess there's no way of knowing right now if that's also some kind of devil fruit power. It makes me think if there are devil fruits in this world. Oh God, grammar. That makes me think. Full stop. If there are devil fruits in this world, is that the only way people can obtain special powers, or are there other ways too? So that's what I'm wondering, because his power is like wind controlling power. It's not his body that does something. Like it's not his body becomes smoke. Her skin is sube. Buggy splits. Luffy stretches. He is controlling something outside of himself, and that's why I'm thinking it doesn't seem like a devil fruit power. Damn! Oh my gosh, Mystery Man is so damn mysterious and he speaks in freaking riddles all the time. At the end he says, "Come back sometime, if that's the way you would do it." What does that even mean? When asked about why he helped Luffy, he said, "What reason is there to stop a man from sailing?" But that's pretty vague if you ask me. Like, would you just help any guy that wants to sail? Like, I don't know about that. I don't know. Okay. Then at the end you see Smoker wanting to go after Luffy, Tashigi wanting to go with him, and then Buggy also chasing Luffy with Alvida and the rest of them in tow. And I love how Buggy thinks it's his luck because of all their good deeds that caused the wind which helped them to escape. He said, "Must have been down to all the good deeds we've shown." In a way, I guess it is his luck that he got caught up in Luffy's luck and was also able to escape. I thought I would write a lot more in my notes on these two episodes, especially concerning things like fate, our own will, luck, what determines our fate, if anything. The conversation could be endless, to be honest, and that's why I guess right now I don't want to speculate too much on what forces are at play in this world, the One Piece world. I'll wade a little deeper into the story first. So I'm not talking too much about my beliefs on fate and our own will, what determines our life and what we do, and all these causations and causalities and fatalism and blah blah blah. I'm not addressing it too much right now because this world could be different from our world, or this world could be a way that Oda expressed his beliefs on our world. Like he showed in a more exaggerated sense things and beliefs or foundations of this world is applicable in our world. Does that make any sense? Was that sentence grammatically... I'm talking too much. I'm deviating from my notes, and this is what happens when I deviate from my notes. That's why I make notes, so that the videos don't end up a big jumble of bullshit. Yeah, so I'm not talking about my own beliefs at this point because I want to see the story reveal itself to me more, you know. But that's it from my side. I will see you guys next time. Thanks for being here again, and bye-bye.